Hello, and welcome to Housing Now, NAHB's industry news and information program. I'm Jeff Bankert. On this edition of Housing Now, we'll talk to NAHB's chief economist, Dr. David Crowe, about the current state of builder sentiment and how it impacts his current forecast. We'll also be talking about the mortgage interest deduction with NAHB tax and policy economist, Dr. Robert Dietz. Dr. Dietz will let us know how the MID is factoring into the current political debates. And finally, we'll take a look at the current trends in residential construction to see what home buyers are actually looking for in a new home. But first, a few top stories trending. NAHB's nationwide Rally for Homeownership campaign recently made stops in Kansas City, Milwaukee, Richmond, and Las Vegas, with numerous policymakers, business leaders, and residents standing together in support of housing. Let's take a look.
We're here today because we understand the importance of owning your own home.
It's the American dream to own your home, to have a place where you can raise your family.
Whenever anybody tries to curtail home ownership or attack home ownership, in my mind, they're attacking the American dream.
One of the most important policies we have had in place as a country is the mortgage interest deduction that helps over 33 million families be able to deduct their mortgage interest from their taxes. That should not be changed.
I don't care if you're 25 or 85, buying that home for most Nevadans and for most Americans is the most important financial decision that you will make.
When I came in as governor, the state of Wisconsin was similar to the country today. We cut property taxes, and you know what took place? Builders started building homes again. People started buying, and we created an economy that was on fire.
The thing you want to do is buy a home. You work hard, you buy a home, you take care of your home. And more than anything else in the world, you can declare, I am an American, and I own this. This belongs to me. That's a part of being an American. Thank you very much.
For more information about the rallies and to sign the petition to protect homeownership, visit protecthomeownership.com. Also trending, registration for the International Builders Show is open. The three-day event at the Las Vegas Convention Center has nearly 800 exhibitors and 100 revamped education sessions. Former Disney CEO Michael Eisner kicks things off as the keynote speaker of the opening ceremonies on Tuesday, January 22nd. You can find out more by visiting buildershow.com. We'll be right back.
Hello? Anybody? I get a little help over here? What's going on? Are we there yet? What is going on? Oh man, flying economy is ridiculous. I don't even know where I am. Oh yeah, I'm in Vegas. And you need to be too. January 22nd to the 24th for the IBS show, Vegas baby. And you can check out all the information on buildershow.com.
Welcome back to Housing Now. Builder confidence in the single-family housing market has been steadily on the rise. But will that trend continue? Senior correspondent Paul Lopez is with NAHB chief economist Dr. David Crowe to find out just that.
Dave, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, like we just heard, the numbers in terms of builder sentiment have been kind of on a roll lately. We've got new numbers out for October. What do they look like?
Well, the October NAHB Wells Fargo Housing Market Index is at a 41. That's 1 point above the previous month, and it's the 6th straight month for an increase. So it continues to show builders improving in their attitude towards the market.
Do they have a reason to be this optimistic at this point?
Yeah, I think that what's happening now is that the builders are seeing customers that are really interested in buying. They've been seeing traffic in their models, but the change has been more serious traffic, people more involved in actually making a purchase.
Okay, so that's the good news. Is there any bad news?
Yeah, it only upticked 1 point. That's a decent forward movement, but that has slowed down the momentum a bit from the summer and early fall. And I think there are a lot of hurdles still out there, particularly for consumers. It's still difficult to get a mortgage. Appraisals are still tough, and so often the agreed upon price doesn't come through in an appraisal. And then people are just still worried about where the economy is going. So all of those uncertainties pile up to keep this index from going any faster than it has.
Can we call this a recovery?
I think we're truly in a recovery. I think what's happened is this recovery has started in a few smaller markets, and it's spreading. So the reason we're beginning to see the better numbers nationally is that spread has come to more places.
Okay, so those are the numbers presently. What's your forecast?
I think we'll continue to see modest improvement. There's been a significant amount of damage done to the overall economy and to the housing market, and it's going to take a while for that to heal. So we're going to continue to see some modest improvements. I think something in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% improvement between now and this time next year.
Excellent. Dr. David Crowe, Chief Economist for the National Association of Home Builders. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Jeff, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. You know, many see homeownership under attack by policymakers on Capitol Hill, particularly regarding the mortgage interest deduction. Well, our own Liz Thompson sat down with NAHB tax and policy economist Dr. Robert Dietz to discuss recent developments with MID. Let's take a look.
Thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
So we're here today to talk about the mortgage interest deduction. Of course, one of the major benefits of buying a new home is the tax breaks that you get from doing so, including the most prominent one, the mortgage interest deduction, or the MID. Lately, of course, there's been some discussions of possibly including this in some type of upcoming tax reform efforts. Now, let me begin by asking you, who benefits most from the MID?
Well, the big thing is when you buy a home and you realize how big that tax benefit come tax time the following year, you really realize how important the MID is. The primary beneficiaries are the middle class. 2/3 of the tax benefits go to those who make less than $200,000. And a particular subgroup that the MID is particularly important for are younger home buyers. In the early parts of a mortgage, the early years, you pay mostly interest. So your interest payment is larger as a share of household income, and so the tax benefits are larger.
Mm-hmm. So what are the most common proposals and who would be hurt by these?
Well, the most important thing to keep in mind is that nobody's proposing outright elimination. Both presidential candidates have stated that they think it's important to maintain the MID for the middle class. But that said, there's been a number of commissions, academics who have suggested curtailing it, limiting it. Some of those common limitations would be to limit the size of the deduction that could be claimed, the amount of mortgage debt that it could be claimed against, or even change it into a tax credit. Those sound like wonky ideas, but the idea is that it would reduce the tax benefit at the end of the day for homeowners. It would represent a real tax increase for home buyers and homeowners.
But don't some tax reform proposals suggest limiting deductions to lower marginal rates, and wouldn't that actually help businesses or homeowners?
Certainly, to a certain extent. I mean, that's sort of the mantra of the tax reform caucus, which is broaden the base and lower the rates. Now, they never say that broaden the base, lower the rates might mean higher taxes. And something to keep in mind about lower rates, the idea here is your marginal tax rate falls. In 1986, which is the gold standard for lowering the rates and broadening the base, the top marginal tax rate fell to 28% in 1987. Within 5 years, it had gone from 28% to 39.6%. So the question is for homeowners, is it a good trade right now to trade away to a deduction that works for lower rates that could be taken away in future years given certain election outcomes?
Mm-hmm. Now, we certainly know that a lot of people claim the mortgage interest deduction. What would the economic impact be of reducing eligibility for this?
Getting rid of the mortgage interest deduction makes it more expensive to buy a home. That means you shrink housing demand, and then for current homeowners, that reduction of housing demand means that prices fall. And that means a real wealth hit to homeowners. In fact, for every 1 percentage point decline in house prices, you could see a wealth hit to homeowners of about $160 billion, which means you only need a 6 percentage point decline to essentially eliminate $1 trillion of household wealth. That's an enormous amount, and given the recession we've just gone through, you can see how important that issue is.
Mm-hmm. So what's the time frame for this debate?
Well, for the rest of the year, the election, the lame duck session, we're likely to see a debate over the 2001-2003 tax cuts, some debate over tax extenders, but we might see a debate over the process of a 2013 tax reform. So, we've got to keep our eyes on what happens in Congress after the election, but mostly I expect a fairly rigorous debate in 2013, and we might see some changes discussed at the end of that year.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Dr. Dietz.
Thank you. It was good to be here.
Well, you can be sure NAHB is going to be keeping an eye on the developments of MID. Very important. Now here to give us the latest on consumer trends, though, is NAHB economist Steve Melman. Steve?
Thanks, Jeff. First-time home buyers have been out of the market for several years, So the challenge is, how do we inspire first-time buyers to make the leap, to purchase a new home? The great room is a combination kitchen, living room, and dining room. Combined with 9-foot ceilings and quality lighting, the great room makes the home seem more open and brighter. So the great room becomes an interactive area, a hub of family activity. So the builder needs to look at their markets, be specific, offer amenities that are exciting, and features that are going to inspire potential home buyers. And their great room can do that. Jeff?
That was great, Steve. Thanks so much. Well, that concludes this edition of Housing Now. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time right here.